Today, workers have the right to create their own ideas and thoughts in their workplaces without the government presiding over them. But it was not always like this back in 1980 Poland, a country where courage sparks a new change for the better. This is the story of the Solidarity movement and how it changed the lives of Polish people. Due to the Solidarity movement in Poland, workers were granted more rights, and the communism in the country subsided. Even though those who went against the communist government were imprisoned or killed, the Solidarity movement eventually transformed Poland into a modern democratic state. This event is important since it was a key factor in ending communism in Poland, giving freedom to the people of Poland, and ending the Soviet Union throughout Eastern Europe. It all began on June 4th, 1946, when the communists rigged the Polish parliamentary elections to secure power. Between 1956 and June 25th, 1976, waves of nonviolent protests erupted, often met with brutal crackdowns that left many dead or injured. These early struggles laid the foundation for the events of August 14, 1980. On that day, workers at the Lenin shipyard in Gdańsk went on strike, initially demanding higher wages, but soon protesting government control, censorship, and harsh working conditions. Led by the electrician Lech Walesa and a team of committed activists, nearly 16,000 workers shut down the shipyard. They issued 21 demands, calling for free trade unions, freedom of speech, an end to censorship, and the release of political prisoners. The movement spread as workers across Poland joined in solidarity. The Polish communist government resisted negotiations but was eventually forced to engage. After nearly 2 weeks of discussions, the strike ended in victory on August 31st, 1980. With the signing of the Gdańsk Agreement, for the first time, a communist government recognized an independent trade union, Solidarity. The agreement granted workers the right to form unions, strike, and demand political freedoms, breaking the state's control over labor organizations. Although a major breakthrough, the agreements were only the beginning. Solidarity quickly gained millions of members and became a force for democratic change. The Gdańsk Agreement made it possible for an independent trade union called Solidarity to form. Solidarity united Poland, making it more challenging for the government to abolish them. In response, on December 13, 1981, General Wojciech Jaruzelski and the Military Council of National Salvation imposed martial law in Poland.
Rada Państwa w zgodzie z postanowieniami Konstytucji wprowadziła dziś
Within martial law, government officials imposed strict rules with the goal of destroying solidarity and putting down opposition. Time restrictions were put in place, and movement was severely restricted, as well as communication between people, such as telephone lines, was taken out. Independent groups became illegal, and a new round of censorship silenced every kind of speech that was free. Important industries and businesses were put under military monitoring, and individuals were under military rule. Solidarity organizers and activists were the focus in major arrests, having over 10,000 arrested in the very first few months only. Those that refused were brought to trial in newly formed military courts, which skipped usual regulations. The administration tried to fully quiet dissent, removing dissident views from the press and learning, as well as public institutions through strict verification tests. Martial law lasted until July 22, 1983. Although it had a major effect on increasing the separation between the government and its people, it grew obvious that the Polish people's desire for freedom and unity could not be controlled. By 1984, all of the Solidarity leaders were released from jail. During this time, the communist government had grown aware that they were not strong enough to crush Solidarity, but neither was Solidarity ready to reach for power. Both the government and Solidarity leaders realized that both sides couldn't achieve full victory without large expenses. Foreign pressure and internal chaos, which worsened Poland's decline in its economic situation, showing the government's struggle to maintain its power. Then, on March 11, 1985, Mikhail Gorbachev became the president of the Soviet Union. Mikhail Gorbachev's policies, glasnost, meaning transparency, and perestroika, meaning restructuring, meant to reduce Soviet control over Eastern Europe, helped groups like Solidarity by showing that the Soviet Union was ready to change its policy. This gave Polish politicians belief in a way to find change. Realizing the changes, the Polish government introduced an indirect yet crucial interaction with Solidarity. Discussions kicked off on February 6, 1989, with the Round Table talks aiming to find common ground on how to govern Poland. Members from both sides participated in the Round Table talks. They discussed important topics such as the creation of free trade unions, the freedom to strike, the freedom of political inmates, and having semi-free elections. While the debates were mostly held behind closed doors, the results were significant. The 1989 discussions achieved a deal in agreement. The Round Table talks resulted in a semi-free election to be held on June 4th, 1989 and June 18th, 1989. These elections paved the way for democracy to flourish in Poland. For the first time in around 40 years, the Polish people had a say in the government, and they were able to deal with the communist power at the ballot box. In line with the details of the approval, 35% of the seats in the Sejm were available to non-communist individuals, while the Senate, which recovered after years of inactivity, gave 100 seats entirely for political debate. Solidarity won 160 out of 161 contested seats in the Sejm and 92 out of 100 seats in the Senate. The results reported not only showed difficult disagreement with the communist tyranny, but also the Polish people's consistent wanting of freedom. The influence of the elections went well past the ballot box. Solidarity's victory caused the communist government officials to give up power, setting the path for the choosing of Tadeusz Modrzewski as Poland's first non-communist prime minister in almost 40 years. This transition in authority indicated the end of communist power in Poland, which encouraged revolutionary movements across Eastern Europe. This event was a victory on cooperation, bravery, and the constant desire for freedom, creating an example for nonviolent rebellion and change in democracy. Poland set an indicator for change with these elections, proving that teamwork and commitment are capable of demolishing even its most harsh times. The Solidarity movement in Poland had short-term effects, including trade unions and increased workers' rights. In the long term, it ended communism, transformed Poland into a modern democratic state, encouraged Eastern European countries to embrace freedom, and contributed to the Soviet Union's decline.